We are glad to welcome in this morning Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference and a guy that's been as busy as anyone introducing coaches all week. If you've watched the SEC Network, Greg Sankey. Commissioner, thank you for taking a few minutes for us.
So I'm on Digital Drive. What happens, and you just saw it, is there's two things. One is I'll overhear the conversations, and somebody was just talking about their concern, but I didn't know what they're concerned about. And then I try to see if I have text messages or emails to be addressed. Like last night when I finished about 7 o'clock, I'd gone to Major League Baseball All-Star Game and Home Run Derby, so I had like 80 emails. I just sat in my room, ate a hamburger, and got it down to about 6, and I'm trying to catch up between radio
he's got Commissioner, he's got 406. So on average, how many emails do you cycle through a day?
We're in the 100 easily, and I'm one who tries. I'm not obsessive about emptying the email inbox. Mm-hmm. I do hate the little red thing that shows you have text messages or voicemails, right, hanging on the iPhone. But they'll fill up if you don't pay attention.
They do that.
How's the week went so far in your estimate?
The same thing. I think it's gone well. It moves along. So I'm not sure I'm the best evaluator because I go from thing to thing to thing. Monday and Tuesday, I start with my remarks, and then we have some video conferences. Wednesday and Thursday, I have talked nonstop on this headset. So people seem interested. At this time of year, there's optimism and hope around the season ahead. People are a little bit more relaxed than they'll be the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Or at least, the rest of the year since football goes through into December. But, excitement about what's ahead.
What have you been asked more about? Revenue sharing and how the league's going to do that, the playoff, and what the format's going to be, or 8 versus 9 games. What are you tired of talking about?
The latter two have been the most.
Right.
Playoff and our football schedule. And I'm asked about NIL and transfer portal and NCAA basketball tournament expansion as well. Those would be the top 5.
I thought Coach Drinkwitz had an interesting response when asked about the.
You never know.
When asked about the SEC and getting back on top, and he alluded to the draft picks, he alluded to the prior, I think he'd said 10 straight national championships and whatnot. You've reportedly had conversations with the Big Ten about a number of different things, college football playoff, possible alliance of sorts. What does that relationship look like between the SEC and the Big Ten?
We're always going to have different perspectives. We should be able to talk through those, and we talk pretty regularly. In fact, I owe Tony a return phone call today. Where we can agree, let's agree. Where there's little differences, let's work through those. Where there are big differences, can we work to, I don't know if a compromise, or can we work collaboratively to a destination that's better and is a piece of both groups' thinking. I think the expectation of leadership from the two conferences is what motivated a more, basically announcing publicly a more closely aligned relationship. That doesn't mean we're excluding people, but we're more intentional about our communication.
When Coach Kiffin or Coach Drinkwitz get up to the podium, who do you hold your breath for more? Do you get worried about?
Somebody texted me. He said he declined to comment on the Epstein files. I'm like, I didn't see that one coming today.
Jeez.
Anyone plead the fifth down there this morning?
Yeah, I think personality's fine. You think about
we need more of it.
We're not dull as a league, and those two guys will certainly add some spice to it.
How do you, as a guy that has to oversee a variety of different things, you alluded to something I think is important for college football to have some flamboyancy, have that personality. How do you balance the respectability and that aspect and keeping composure like that with your coaches versus having a little bit of personality? Where's the fine line in that?
Well, one of my statements I've offered, it's good to be clever, but it's not always good to always be clever. So where are those lines drawn? And, insulting opponents, being disrespectful directly. We have expectations that you deal with officiating concerns directly and deal with those privately. I pivot to more of the positive. Your responsibilities, you want to be entertaining as you talk about your program, you talk about the game, you talk about the competition, and not be disrespectful. And when that line is overstepped a bit, we'll communicate in different ways. I try to do most of that privately.
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey with us here on the Morning Rush. Help us understand revenue sharing and how the league's going to approach this? Is each school going to determine how they divide their own money, or is the league going to have some standards? I know there was discussion in Destin. Help us understand from the outside what the process really is.
So it's a $20.5 million allocation.
Right.
We agreed as a conference to deduct the amount of new scholarships. It points the available money at about $18.5 million for the year ahead.
So that's not tacked on.
As a conference, we have not directed how that money is distributed. We have talked about that. We had a working group that looked at allocations, 70, 15, 5, 75. They looked at different allocations. Eventually, in February, said, look, we made some decisions in the fall pretty quickly on the heels of the settlement being presented and receiving preliminary approval that if we had those decisions to do over after what we've learned, we would not have made decisions in that same way. So let's not rush to other restrictions. And so that slowed it down. We've put
touched on this Monday. It's just been a few days, about where we're going to be with NIL in addition to rev share and what this conference is going to do. Help us understand how those two things will and won't still interact moving forward.
They're separate economic opportunities. One is defined within the athletics department. That's the revenue share. The outside name, image, and likeness activity is an area where we've probably talked about for years, and you've heard for years, we need guardrails around this. We need guardrails. Well, now we have guardrails. It is to be for a real business purpose with the appropriate range of compensation attached to that individual and that business purpose. We've engaged, we've created what's called the College Sports Commission to oversee this process. We've engaged Deloitte Consulting to develop what's called NIL Goal, which is the evaluative process that indicates whether those standards are met or not. And if something's not met and a deal is not approved under that system, there's then an arbitration process where the individuals can go through that's part of the settlement to either justify or fail to justify what they've presented. And that's a process. I think the question is, I can go back and find coaches quoting about how great NIL was going to be. Now I find coaches who say what a disaster it is. I can find coaches who came here and spoke publicly about needing guardrails. Now we have guardrails. Now the institutions, the athletic programs, and the teams have to operate within those guardrails. And if they don't, they need to hold themselves accountable first, then be held accountable by another entity if we can't achieve that kind of guardrail operation.
So when the Scores Act settles and Congress codifies and all these legalese terms, what do you see happening when all the dust settles with transfer rules? What do you think will be where we end up?
We're going through, there was a lawsuit brought by the West Virginia Attorney General, signed on by several others, I think Illinois and New York, where we were prepared to return at the conference level to a one-time transfer opportunity. Go make your decision, but once you're there, if you want to transfer again, you'll just serve a year residence. We're not going to tell you whether you can transfer or not. It's just about playing. And when the courts ruled that you couldn't limit the number, we pulled back. I think what needs to happen is we need to recognize we all still have an academic responsibility to the young people. What I think's happened with the transfer portal is I'll give you let's go back to the John Wooden era at UCLA. He had a guy named Andy Hill who wrote a book about his playing experience. And he was highly recruited, didn't play much, and actually spent years and years bitter, angry, didn't think about his experience, didn't have a relationship with Coach Wooden. He's in his 40s, he's leading a business, and he realizes every day he uses something he learned playing basketball for John Wooden at UCLA. That's the context of college athletics. That's the context of education. That's the context of being part of a community. Embedded in that is, hey, you make the great play, you hit the winning shot, you hit the home run. You have a legacy in that campus, in that community. And all of this transfer has taken that away. Let's go back to something that's tied to academic progress. And is it the Scores Act, or is it we just have to be bold and be prepared with the right rationale to defend a reasonable standard? Either way, we need to get to a different environment.
I missed the opener of your speech this week. Did you start with another Fast Times clip?
I did not.
Okay.
I did that one here a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff Spicoli.
Yep.
It's I'm here, you're here. It's our time.
Where does that rank in the all-time Greg Sankey movies? Fast Times.
Oh, it's entertaining. I don't even think it's in the top 10. There's some good laugh lines. I just happened to see it. Chariots of Fire, I think, is like at the top of mine. If you remember that movie from the 80s, the Eric Liddell story is just an awesome one. I think Back to the Future is one of the Back to the Future, the first one, is one of the best entertaining movies ever. But that's, I'm an 80s kind of person.
You've got a summer reading series that you've talked about before. What's the best book that's been on the coffee table this summer?
I read a book called Inner Excellence. I read that book because A.J. Brown was on the sideline for the Philadelphia Eagles reading the book during the NFL playoff game. And I'm like, wow, what's that? And I did a little bit of research. It's about performance, about focus. It was entirely appropriate. He had that book out with probably dog-eared pages and highlighting. And so that was a good book to just reset perspective on daily performance and preparation.
Well, Commissioner, we'll leave it there. Commissioner Greg Sankey of the Southeastern Conference. Appreciate it. First one this morning? He did?
No, this was like 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was on another radio station in Central Time, and I sat down and said, it's 8:45. Like 8:45, I'm only 45 minutes in. I'm exhausted already. So it's 8:45 Central Time.
Well, appreciate you giving us some of your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
All right, Greg Sankey, Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, live. They call it Digital Drive. We're going to keep calling it Radio Row because we're radio stations.
Yeah.
So, we're just going to be rebellious in that regard. But I don't think they're going to worry too much about it. Good to hear from the Commissioner here this morning.
BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season right around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From MLB, UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. Bet online. The game starts here.